meetup. We keep growing, which is great. We keep getting more folks showing up every week, some new faces too, which is always wonderful. I see a lot of new names here in the community list. So, in case you don't know, my name's Eric. I'm one of the co-organizers of this. I got my real start in no code while I was at Bubble. I'd been building some stuff before then, but then I went to work at Bubble as their SERP evangelist, and really got big into no code and building the community. And that's when this kicked off with Al, who's my co-organizer. Al, if you have some time, you want to chime in and introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Al, one of the co-organizers here. Eric and I have been working on the No Code meetup, No Code NYC meetup for more than a year now, I think, and moving to the online format just to make it more accessible to more people. And yeah, I've been a solutions architect at Coda for 6+ years now. Just really passionate about the no code space. So glad everyone's here today.
Great, thanks, Al. So yeah, if anyone has any questions for us afterwards, feel free to reach out. You can connect with us. I think we're both on Twitter, we're both on LinkedIn, and obviously happy to share my email if that's easiest. And then today we're gonna go through some news, and then we have two speakers today. So we've got Daniel, who's here now, and then we've got Phil Lakin, who I'm going to text because he seems like he's running a little late. Before that, I also want to let you all know that we have an event lined up for next month, the last week of June. We're doing an in-person event here in New York City. It's going to be down not too far from the canal stop. It's between us, Glide, Slack, Make, and a new co-working space called Fabric. And we're going to gather. We're hoping to get a good group out, get some drinks, get some food, and see some presentations about what the future of no code looks like from the point of view of Glide and Make, which is kind of an exciting partnership for them. Before we dive into Daniel's presentation, two pieces of news that caught my eye this month. One was I think the contest was over yesterday, but Software is running a contest on conditional forms. If anyone entered, I'd love to know about it. See how it went for you, and if you've been using the conditional forms. It's an interesting thing that they're really pushing. I haven't got a chance to test them yet, but I am curious about this and what makes it such an important and big update that they've been blasting out and building a challenge around it. The other piece is Zapier has a Chrome extension, which is super interesting. Again, I haven't tried it yet. It just showed up last week. But if anyone's tried it, I'd love to hear about it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to giving it a go this next week. Maybe we'll ask Phil, since that's it's kind of his bread and butter, see what he thinks about that. Any questions? Any other news that I might have missed? Anyone want to share? No? All right, we're going to jump right into Daniel. Daniel, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you're working on, and then I'll allow you to share screen, and you can walk us through your project.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Eric. My name is Daniel Brown. I'm a web designer and also a web developer as well. I have over 3 years of experience. I currently work at Booking.com. I've always had a deep passion for creating value for others. So I always tinker with like web applications and kind of creating passion projects. And this main idea for this project specifically is that I will always create projects and kind of either fall off from it or the steep to kind of get it done became too hard. So I'll probably stop it and start something new. And the reason why I'm starting this new project is because I think that one of the things I could have helped by then is that if I had someone else that could kind of help me and assist me with getting this project done. So again, it says Tech Connect there, but the name of the actual website is Partunity. I had the domain registered recently, but yeah, the main idea here is to really streamline connection building for people in tech. And you can think of it as Tinder for tech, where you're not posting yourself and kind of having people connecting with you in that sense. Where you can post your projects, post your ideas, or post things that you're involved with, and kind of have people message you on that as well. So no answers here specifically, but if you guys can think about it, any projects or ideas that you've kind of thought about recently or worked on recently, and one of the things that you probably saw was that you don't really have much people that can really support you. Maybe you do, But one of the things there is that if you could really kind of connect with someone, whether it be in your region or across the globe, and kind of have them pitch in and kind of say, hey, I have this resource. Hey, this is a good idea. Let me help you with this. Or, hey, I saw something similar here. Kind of have them interact with you in a one-to-one manner. I think that would be very beneficial. I think that's something that's missing in today's world. I know Y Combinator has this co-founder matching program where you can post yourself on their platform, but I think the next piece of that is that how about you kind of post your project or post something that you're interested in and have people kind of connect on that sense. So this is the main idea for this project.
That's great. That's super interesting. So, you prepared a demo, right? Today, you're going to show us a little bit around and kind of what you've built. But before we do, how long have you been, I guess, playing with no code in particular? I don't think I caught that.
I would say around 2022 is when I like kind of dabbled in it a little bit. At the latter stages of 2022 and 2023, I really like jumped into it fully.
Uh,
I would say like the learning curve is not that steep, but when it comes to code and this, there's so much potential to like really build deep functioning app and web applications that is without really having that much coding knowledge. You just have to have like a knowledge in it's okay, conditional flows, how you want the application to work, and you can build that out without having any technical background. But yeah, I would say a little over a year dabbling with no code
yeah.
platforms.
Yeah. When after your presentation, I would love to dig into a little bit about what that's been like because coming from a developer background to no code is a super interesting transition, right? To have that background to kind of already have those frameworks in mind, but then to go to someplace that's an abstraction on top of it, that's almost more limiting, but the speed and the freedom that comes with it. I'd love to dig into that. So,
Definitely.
but first, let's see what you built.
Yes.
Yeah, man, share your screen. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, let me quickly share my screen here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So again, this is Tech Connect, or you can call it Opportunity. Again, I registered the domain name, and you have two versions of this website, basically. So you have the dev environment, which has this version test URL string attached to it, and then you have the actual site. So for the version test, this is where I kind of play around with it a lot more. You'll see more posts here where you can interact and kind of mess around with actual posts on the actual environment here, the live version is more or less to kind of get people to sign up and kind of get the appetite for how people are interested in the platform. But going into the version test here, you can see that we have this first post. Again, all the posts that you see here are dummy posts, but it's just to kind of give you the idea of what the intention of this platform is. So again, this information is dynamic. So if I reload the website, I'll see another post here. So the main idea is that you will land on the index page and you see some random post. You'll see here posted by Martina Park. You'll see this is not a real person. I made this post myself, but you get the idea that someone will be making this post. You can see the categories UI UX, and this person basically is looking for a mentorship. And you can interact with their posts and then message them based on your interest with this post. Say for instance, I wanted to say I'm a developer. I don't really care too much about UI UX. I can go to the filters here and kind of see if there's anything in web development. And then I see here someone's working on a Python social media platform for musicians. And I can kind of message them here and kind of interact with the platform. Now I'm not currently logged in. So if I click this message one here, you see you need to log in. So let me log in now on the main login page. Sorry. And I'll today just continue as a guest. So again, Martina C, UI UX, don't really have too much interest in this. So I can skip this post. You see, we go to a different post here. This is in the startup region. So this person is looking for brainstorming ideas for a new productivity app. I can watch this video here if I choose to. But I'll say, okay, this seems interesting. They're looking to introduce gamification and time management focus. Let me see if I can message them here. You can see this is the main interaction that will be taking place when you're sending a message. These messages will be categorized. So you're not just sending a message for the sake of sending a message. Again, the main purpose of this platform is to streamline interaction, to have different categories that you can use to send a message. So I can say, hey, give an encouragement to this person, have it be classified as a resource, say, okay, is there assistance that I can give? Just saying congratulations if I want to give some congrats, propose a collaboration if I have something on my end that I want to propose to this person as well, or just some suggestion. I would say some kind of encouragement. I don't really have too much idea of the Python space and the startup journey, so I'll just post something as an encouragement to this person. Okay. Great idea. I love it. Let me spell this correctly. And then I'll send a message there. Says your message is sent. You can see that there's a new post sent here. So now if I go to the messages section here, you'll see that a new chat has been created between me and this person. I have a few messages here as tests. You can see this is the main post that message I sent for this post. You'll see the post tagged in the message here with my message detail here. Again, I sent it a few seconds ago. I can click here to see the entire post if I need to. And then I can click back to the message and kind of interact with this person a little bit more. I can also go to the person's profile just to see what else they've created and see if this is someone actually that I want to interact with a little bit more. Yeah, and this person seems like they're very much interested in web development, web applications, and doing that kind of functionality. And I can just kind of go through their posts, see more about themselves, seeing what they're posting. Can see again a little bit about their background. Again, this is a dummy website. Don't pay attention to this, but you can see here that their skills are in app design, UI, UX, and app development. And I can come back to the messaging feature here and then continue to message the person. So again,
Yeah.
if you have any questions, please
Yeah,
let
I
me
just want to pause there and say how much I love the fact that when you send a message, it gives context to the message. So often when I message folks like on Twitter or on LinkedIn, if it's in response to something they've done, that's not something I want to put up publicly. I just want to message them about it. I have to then also link to the post. So I have to like share the post manually, which is always a kind of a pain. Um,
exactly.
so I think this is fantastic, the fact that you've thought through this user experience. It's very well
Yeah, and
done.
I think it's good to have that context as well, because even myself, I don't have the best memory, so it's good to have that context with the post and kind of see what I was referencing to when I'm kind of going through this post. So again, this is the main idea. Currently this is still in development, um, but just showing you guys the MVP version of what is going on here. So again, just showing the demo again here. This person is doing Python. Let's see if we could go to something where in the space of a new idea. Again, some kind of music app. You're looking to build this up here. I think this is a good idea. I can message them again on this post. I can either skip or message them, but I'll choose to message them. I say, okay, let's collaborate on this. I love music. Let's collaborate. Can send a message here. Message was sent. In the category of new ideas, there's nothing there, so I can reset the filter and then more posts will come up. And again, I can go back to the messaging feature here and see that message that I sent to that person. So again, we have front-end integration. Can click here and see the post in its full context and kind of chat back and forth with this person. Again, all of this was built in Bubble. So I think it's very profound to see just how much capabilities and functionality is in this no-code platform. Even for myself, I always call myself a developer. I know some code here and there, but this is something that I spent like a month building and kind of spending a little bit, few more weeks kind of refining. But this is the main idea for it. So streamline connections. And again, to have you guys not respond but think about it. Is there an idea, project, something that you're involved with that you think that, okay, can I put it out there and have people kind of one-to-one interaction message me on it and kind of have a deeper connection with someone in that space, whether it be someone in a region, someone across the globe, and kind of have a back and forth conversation on your interests, on your posts, and things that you're involved with. So again, this is the main idea of Opportunity. If anyone is interested in joining the platform, you can go to opportunity.com and join the waitlist. And this is basically just you giving your name and email, just showing that there's an interest for this website. Again, it's still in development. but I really want to see if there's an appetite for this to kind of go full force and say, okay, let me dedicate 100% of my time to this. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, anything that you want to point out, please let me know, and I'll happy to answer them.
Hey man, super cool. Thanks for sharing. I have a couple of questions, but I also want to make sure that we open it to the floor. Anyone else have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. You can jump in and I'll unmute you. Or you can ask in the chat and I'll ask on your behalf. You don't have to speak if you don't want to, but I'll kick it off. So Daniel, can you tell me a little bit about where you decide to use code and where you decide to use no code? And then what are some of the ways in which you've linked them?
Yeah, so this is completely done through no code. I do have some CSS elements in there just because I want that some customizability there just with user experience, but this is completely in no code. Additional features that could be done with code itself can be thought of, but yeah, this is completely through Bubble.io.
Crazy. That's super advanced considering it's all in Bubble, right?
All on Bubble, yeah.
Yeah, I recognize the bubble button. That's
Yeah, you could still see that.
um so in terms of your plans for the future, do you plan on doing any kind of traditional code in the future? Do you have any features that are going to require that, or you think you're gonna be able to accomplish a lot just with Bubble?
I think the MVP and just kind of starting stages of this website definitely would be done in Bubble. And if there needs to be some kind of third-party platform, Airtable, um, some kind of connectivity tool such as Make or Glide, I could definitely use that there. But at the moment, yeah, it's just solely in Bubble.
Great. Awesome. And then um in terms of how you settled on Bubble, can you talk to me a little bit about how you chose Bubble over any of the other platforms, considering that, I mean, in 2023, there were an explosion of options, and you still decided to go with Bubble. I'd love to understand why.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of options out there. And I think just with Bubble, it's just so functional. Like there's so many things that you can achieve with it. Like in the learning curve, it's not necessarily steep, but if you're coming from a background in coding, you just need to understand the logic that needs to be put in place to have the things done. But yeah, I did some research. I did some research on some competitors and I saw that yeah, they can do the same thing, but not in the same capacity as Bubble. You have
Mhm.
web builders that are solely for UI UX, and they have some conditional elements there. But I think as far as mobile goes, it really has that background of just okay, building really powerful web applications that I was really looking for. And then I do have some background in web design, so I can kind of, fill that in. So yeah,
Mhm.
did some research, thought that Bubble was perfect for what I needed.
Cool. I appreciate it, sharing. Next question, unless anyone else has any questions, raise your hand. I'll unmute you, like I said, or I can read from the chat if you prefer before I dive in. No, quiet group today. It's all right. Hey Phil, glad to have you. You're on deck. We're gonna get to you in a minute. So Daniel, in terms of the ideal user right now for your app, what who are you looking for? What's their background? And who would you like your first, 50 customers, 50 users, what do they look like?
Yeah, and this ranges from anyone in tech. So whether it's you just starting off, like yeah, you're in college, or you're just switching careers, like you're just getting started. This is for people that are just getting started. Hey, this is a project I'm working on, putting it out there in the world and having people kind of connect with me on that. Or you could be like very experienced in this space as well, 10 plus years, building web applications, building code, whatever the case may be, and just kind of connecting with new people. So yeah, it's just generally for everyone in tech, whether you're just looking for someone to connect with, mentorship, collaboration, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's running for people in tech, and whatever your background is, it's open for you.
Great. All right, final bit now. Ask Give. What can the community do for you? What can we help besides sign up, besides join the wait list? What would be most helpful to you? Or is there something else that you'd like to share with everyone?
I think for you guys, if it would be possible to have people you go on the dev environment and kind of say, hey, this is a great application, but there's this functionality here that doesn't make so much sense. Could you change that? Or here's an idea that you could utilize in this sense. Just having more user feedback, because again, the main idea from being here is just to kind of get an appetite on the market and what people are saying, and kind of building from that and then scaling it as well. So it's still in its initial phase, but yeah, just user feedback and kind of bring it forward to more people is the main idea here.
Great. Yeah, well, you get a chance, drop the link in the chat for folks to check out, and and if you want to drop your socials or anything like that, you drop those in there too, so people can connect.
Definitely. Thank you as well.
Yeah, and then any closing thoughts, or we covered everything?
But that is it. Thank you again for having me. I
Alright.
really do appreciate you guys, having me,
Course,
ramble
man.
on and showcases.
Yeah, we did a great job. Thanks for being here and thanks for sharing.
Definitely. Thank you.
Phil, you are up next. So I'm gonna make sure you can unmute.
Hello.
There he is. Can you
Can't turn my video on.
can I not take care of that? Can you come on? All right, we're gonna have to go without the video until I figure this out. Phil, how are you? How's everything, man?
Doing well, man. Good to be here. Sorry for the delay.
No, not at all, man. Glad you can make it. So for people who don't know you, which honestly in the no-code community, I can't imagine there are many left. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to no-code?
Sure, man. So my name is Philip Lakin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of NoCodeOps. We are both a community and a platform for no-code professionals in operations. So think sales ops, people ops, marketing ops, anyone doing internal operations work at their companies with the help of no-code tools like Zapier, Airtable, Make, Google Sheets, Spot, etc. Yeah, I got into the space because short of it is, give you guys the short version, way before tech, I was an actor, so did everything from like Law and Order and Gossip Girl to films in Cannes and Tribeca Film Festival. And when I was an actor, I was a super mediocre waiter when I was living in New York. And so eventually ended up getting into like building my own like guerrilla marketing agency is just thing I got really into. And then that company got acqui-hired by Get, an Israeli-based Uber competitor. And when I was there, I ended up building a ton of internal workflows and external workflows with no code, got really into it. I got headhunted to join Compass, the real estate tech company, to do very similar things there. And then, yeah, started a newsletter that turned into a community that also eventually turned into product with NoCodeOps. So here we are. And for fun fact, for those of you know everyone here knows Eric. I know Eric from years and years and years before all of that, because Eric and I, when we were kids, used to play soccer together, and was actually one of the groomsmen at my wedding. So I've known Eric for lots and lots and lots of years.
Yes, it's what, since 11 years old?
Yeah,
We've known each
yeah.
other? Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride, and I would never have guessed in a million years that it would end up here with us chatting. But
Nuts.
but happy to have you, man, and happy to get to hear and share more about what you're building. So let's I guess let me know if you can share your screen, because first let's take a look at NoCodeOps, and then we'll go back in time and discuss how it came to be a little more. I want to dig in.
Cool. See if I can share my screen here. Can y'all see my screen okay?
Yeah, awesome. We recognize that face. Doc was on last month.
Oh, rad. Yeah, Doc's the man. So NoCodeOps, like I said, it's all of these things, right? It's our platform operator, it's the community, it's our education. So in terms of community, right, we're now over actually 1,400 folks in our Discord community who are helping each other out day-to-day basis. We have multiple events every week for them. We also just launched an academy where I think it's opening in a separate window, so you might not be able to see it, but let me
We
go
can see it
here.
when it
Oh,
pops
you
up.
can see it, Brian?
Yeah, we can see when it pops up.
Cool. So we just started launching courses for folks. Some are free, some are paid, but people are getting a ton of value out of these, all from the standpoint of like, being a no code operations professional. We have a free job board where we post jobs and also do a search for jobs across the internet that are related to what our community members are looking for. And then Operator is our platform, like I said, that does automatic documentation for no code stacks. So if you're using Zapier, Make, Airtable, we show you how all of it works together in a really beautiful and seamless way that you don't have to keep it documented yourself. That way you can know, like, if you're about to mess with any endpoint somewhere, what that thing's going to impact. You can see how more processes fit together in like a really beautiful way. So it just really helps you scale your no code instance when building this out at different companies. So yeah, that's what we do.
Great. So, the immediate question I have is, this already feels like the successor to MakerPad, right? What you're building here. I mean, have you, in terms of how you thought about building this out, in terms of how you've added the community, you've added the academy, you've got the job board, the conference is coming, right?
Yep.
How are you thinking about stacking these initiatives on top of each other and building this? And I mean, it's at 1,400, it's a big community of folks. How are you thinking about building this?
It's a great question. So first of all, when MakerPad really became a thing, I was super inspired by that whole story and that whole journey and Ben's journey there. And the first thing I said to myself when I saw MakerPad years ago was, and I was in a room with a bunch of other Atlanta no coders like, KP and Wid and just Drew and some awesome folks. And I was like, I want to eventually make the MakerPad for ops people. And so I was very inspired by them. And so that's part of the inspiration, actually. Where I see it all going, look, at the end of the day, right, like we are a venture-backed SaaS company that also has all these other elements to it. And the reason we build all these elements and not just, we weren't just straight up only doing the SaaS is because we think that for ops folks to get to the next level of their careers with no code, it's, all of the things. It's part community, part education, and part technology that's missing to help us scale these things. And so we wanted to build all of them, is the reality. And so we didn't just see it as it's only a one, kind of or two parts here. It's all three, and they all work together. And so that for us was really big. So they all kind of work together.
Oh, I love it, and I think like I said, you're doing a fantastic job with this. And I don't just say that as an old friend. I say that as someone who's been in this space a long time and seen a lot of the projects come and go. My next question is about the folks that you've targeted. Right, obviously, you yourself have done this kind of work, and so it feels like a natural fit. But it also feels like like I would not have guessed that there were 1,400 people that you'd be able to collect in such a short period of time. And so how are you defining these people? Is it in of itself like a new class of worker, right? Because a lot of these tools are still relatively new. The skills that
Yeah.
you're teaching are relatively new. It feels like a whole new category of work. How
Yep.
are you thinking through that definition and then, finding the people who fit it?
Yeah. So the crazy thing is the community is 1,400 because everyone, even though the community is free, people have to apply to it. But our newsletter is already over 10,000. So there's a lot of folks out there. And the way that we think about it is like, who are these folks? The reality is, I mean, you think like 5 years ago, you never heard the term marketing op, people ops, sales ops. These are all new roles. And the reason these things became roles is because of how powerful the tools became. That you didn't need to be a developer to add value to your team in a technical or system driven way. And now these tools are this powerful, every team's like, yo, we want someone on our side, who knows our stuff, building and deploying these kinds of solutions for us without having to like wait in line, for the devs. And so that's why all these folks have all these, different ops roles now. And so for us, our community is really made up of like two, let's call it like three big kind of segments of folks. One segment of folks is like exactly what I said. They're the op person at a mid to large size company. They're doing sales ops, marketing ops, people ops, etc. They're using no code tools day to day. The second segment is, you call it like freelancers and agencies that are working with those types of folks. So they're working less on like building MVPs and more like streamlining revenue operations fractionally for multiple companies. And then the third category, and we see a lot of this, is people doing hybrid work, where they are, by day doing this type of work at some company, and then by night doing like a side hustle where they're consulting for multiple companies. And so, like that, like those are the biggest areas. And like a lot of these folks find us through all of our kind of social content, through through learning about the community from different folks, and I'd say those are the three areas that we identify there.
Yeah, great. I appreciate the answer. And yeah, like I said, it feels like you're defining a whole new class of worker, and you're doing a great job with it. And I mean, obviously, it's resonating with folks, right? Because they're applying, and you're finding people that meet the criteria.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess tell me a little bit about the conference you're building, right? Because I've been hearing about this a little bit here and there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Talk
short
to
of it
me.
is, we wanted to do a conference for a while. It's one of the biggest things our community members have asked for since day one. I've gone to both no code summits in Paris, and just like had a phenomenal, time there, and just really impressed by what they did. Um, and forever we wanted to kind of do our own conference where we can just get everyone together in person and, kind of feel what this community is like in person, because it's just so tight knit online, and on our Discord and our events. And so, yeah, something we wanted to do for a long time, and we're planning on doing it in Atlanta as soon as like fall this year, which is exciting. And so, yeah, like the short of it is like, uh, there's just some magic that happens in person that just doesn't happen online, especially with community. Um, and we want to tap into that, right? Like, I mean, Eric, you remember when we used to like, go to Tech Day in New York, right? There's just something special about in-person events that like you just can't replace. And so we want to bring all these people together, to learn and to grow together and to feel that sense of community in person, but also to celebrate these folks publicly, right? Because entrepreneurs are quite often celebrated for fundraising or big exits or whatever, but very rarely are the op folks internally at these companies, and they're doing creative, amazing work, and they're just very rarely celebrated externally. And we wanted to be a platform for that as well.
I love it. I really do. I'm excited. And I might try and snag a ticket even though I'm not an ops person. Just to come meet all these
I,
people.
I know a guy that might approve it. I know a guy.
Um, okay, so backing up, I want to get back to the origin story here. You mentioned how it started out with something a lot simpler before it became this incredible community and even a software product. So talk me through the early days about how this idea started to build and snowball and became what it is today.
Yeah. Look, it started as a newsletter. It was an idea for a newsletter that I came up with, literally when my daughter was born. And I was like, 3 years ago. And I was very small. I just started the newsletter and started writing it, and putting it out every week. And it just slowly grew and grew and grew. And then from there, knew I wanted to do a community, but did not realize how hard building a community was. Like I thought, oh, you just get all these people in one place, they'll talk to each other. And it's like, the opposite cannot be more true. It takes a ton of work. And so, which I was okay at, not the best, but thankfully I found, eventually Claudia, who is our community manager, that's just an absolute legend and just runs that thing like nobody's business. Um, we did some service work for a little bit before we got into the software side. Like at one point, we were messing around with like maybe we'll be a marketplace for, no coders, to get hired, or, maybe we'll do managed services. But the goal was really to eventually find a software opportunity. And then when we did, the first one was really around just like error monitoring and handling. And we built something around that called Switchboard that, the feedback that we got was like, this was part of the picture for folks, but it was the whole thing. And the whole thing really stemmed back to documentation. And I think the thing in B2B SaaS is you always try to find something that people are already manually doing or hacking together already, because it's that big of a problem. And what happened over time is we did like over 300 customer dev interviews and kept finding this spreadsheet that people were making of all of their different, like, here's all of our automations, here's who owns that, blah, 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 blah. And so what we did was we could for adding context on top of that. Couple response was yes, and so that's what we built. Challenge early on. It is not data AI, so we build it, abstract our own way. And it's getting trial make a few weeks back, and yeah, our goal is like to just the project journey is really how do we replace all of the manual documentation that people are doing. And the reason that people were doing that manual documentation was simply because these no-code stacks are very easy to build, and people can move very fast in building them. That it almost becomes their downfall, because anyone can build anything and move super fast, but it almost becomes more fragile the more you add to it. So people were building documentation and be like, hey, before you mess with this field in HubSpot, just like check to see if there's any dependencies on it. And so now that's what we do with operators. We do all of that automatic documentation dependency mapping.
That's fantastic, man. That's so important, especially as the organization grows. I have I guess a kind of a sensitive question. Is you have these folks who who are building things, who are connecting technologies, who aren't traditional devs. How have they been received by devs who are working in a similar or an adjacent space, and and now they have to find some kind of common ground, some kind of language to share, because it's like, hey, we're relying on similar technologies or the same technology. We're relying on building things that are interdependent in a world where traditionally these folks were very separated, and there was a bit of a hierarchy in terms of who's allowed to touch these things. So I'd love to know, what are you seeing in terms of how the relationship is growing, and the friction that it's likely creating?
Sorry, the relationship between what again?
Traditional devs and the operators that are in your community.
It's pretty funny. Like when no code first became a thing, right? I think the first instance of devs were either like, it's not going to be a real thing, it's not real code, or it's not scalable, or whatever. But now no code's getting pretty powerful, so the thought was like, oh, is this stuff going to replace devs? And like, look, like now you see like with AI, right? Like, is AI going to replace devs? And I always think that question comes up, but when you fundamentally look at what code development is, it's much more than just like straight up writing code language. Like you're architecting very elegant solutions to very complex problems, and that requires a level of human thought and intuition that AI and no code are just like, AI is not there yet, but no code is basically saying, hey, here's the level of abstraction that's inherently limiting you a bit, but in that limitation, you get all of these advantages and benefits in terms of moving faster and not needing to learn how to code. And the reality that I ended up seeing is like, first of all, inside of these companies, none of these freaking developers want to do internal tools. This is very rare to find a developer like an internal tool. Can't wait to build that, right? Like, no, they want to focus on the external product. Meanwhile, no coders are like, oh my god, I get to build a custom internal tool. This is amazing. And so they do it, and they love it. And so I think it's creating a category of work that is not taking stuff away from devs. I do think it takes some stuff away from like vertical B2B SaaS, which I think is actually good because it forces B2B SaaS to like for it to be valued, be way more opinionated and better than just kind of like an empty shell, which it should be. So I see the relationship actually it was kind of tension at first, and I think over time with time it's like now these folks got to work with each other. It's part of the reason that like operators so powerful for folks use because now they can kind of see how all this stuff connects together and they can document in a way that devs do. And so when they connect with dev tools for custom coded things at their company, like actually see how it all really works together. And that level of observability is really important in code. And so I think no coders are now seeing that these tools are almost their own language. And these platforms are almost their own language. And now we've got to get better and more professional at like how to deploy and work through these things. Just because you can do something fast doesn't mean you should. Um, and and lastly, I think that devs are getting more and more of a respect for no code tools as like a look, this stuff like we see devs bring no code into their stack even if they know how to code this thing. They're like, Zapier's way easier to do just like writing all these Lambda functions. Like, you might as well just use that. Like, so I think the relationship's getting better and better and better over time.
Great. Well, I love to hear it because I remember when I first started at Bubble, the the tenor of the conversations was very stressful with devs. They're like, "What are you doing? Why are you spending time on that?" And
Yep.
the tone is certainly changing. Um, you brought up AI. I'm curious how because software has the AI builder. I think everyone else is looking to try and bring it into their software. What are you thinking in terms of how you may or not going to apply it to what you're doing, and
Yep.
how do you think it affects the industry as a whole?
Yeah, so one, I look, there's plenty of AI tools where a no coder can just go and generate a bunch of code. Good luck knowing what that means or how to update it, right? Like at the end of the day, if I make something in the world of development, whether it's code, no code, low code, whatever, um, you have to maintain it. And if you don't know how it's working or what's going on and you're relying on AI for everything, good luck, right? So um, I think that the interfaces are important. I think all of this work that the no-code industry has done around like making these concepts visually accessible does not go anywhere. I love seeing AI being deployed in products in like really smart, interesting ways. In fact, even an operator, like you can see here on the just pull the screenshot here. I don't think I have that actually here anymore, but I'll show you guys later. But in operator, if you click on like one of these, actually here, I can show you here. Just like a walkthrough demo. But in operator, if you open up one of the automation, we actually can give you, and this is showing our process features. Just give me a second. Yep, see here this description. We're using AI to automatically generate these descriptions. So like we're using AI in some really cool ways to remove, human work, like annoying.
Yeah.
But what I really get jazzed about AI and no code is like these areas. One way that I'm using it all the time is like if I'm in Airtable enough to write a function or a formula that I don't know how to write, like using AI to help me generate that formula right in line just by typing natural English. Oh my God, that's so cool. I love that, Um, uh, using AI for things like error detection and error remediation, like really freaking cool. Um, but I think the other area that's going to be really interesting for no code beyond just like, okay, I want to extend a little bit into code, or I'm running into this little area that I wish you just customize further. AI should be further enabling no code to like stretch the boundaries even further. And that is really exciting to me.
Yeah, I love it. I agree. And honestly, I having it I saw someone say that it's soon enough it's not going to be that everything is AI powered and that's what you're looking for. It's going to be the opposite. So it's not that you're going to look for things that are powered by AI, but you're going to notice things that aren't. So like little things like what you did where like, it pre-fills the description and stuff with you, all that kind of manual labor, right? All that It's just,
Yep.
you're not going to have to do it, all that tedious stuff anymore.
Can I tell you the thing I'm so
Yeah.
excited for somebody to invent
Yeah,
with
let's
AI,
hear it.
whether it's in a product or its own product, is like one of the biggest pains in the asses for like enterprise B2B, buyers is just like the setup and transfer and install and implementation of these like big meaty enterprise tools. Dude, AI should be able to crush that stuff. So like an AI system that just goes, all right, where's all your data today? Tell me about this. Okay, we scanned your whole stack, we process mined everything. Like, is this, are we correct in assuming this process map? No, please update it. Yes, great. This is how this will transfer into this new product. Thoughts on that? Great, done. You're fully implemented. What took $500,000 in consulting in 6 months just took 10 minutes.
Yeah, that would be awesome, and also put a lot of consultants out of work.
But I think their job just becomes more like they get to do more cool things anyway, right? Like, sure, implementation consultants, like, yeah, it's gonna be SOL, but like ask any implementation consultant like what the most fun of their thing is actually like thinking through some of the real meaty problems that AI can't solve, right? And like, you know, figuring out structures for how to deploy things. Like there's just so much more interesting work. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. You still will require a base amount of knowledge of why and how things are happening. And then from there, you can now do better work, right? You can now,
Yep.
it's like having an assistant for everything. It's like having an associate, right? An entry-level person to take
Yep.
on the grunt work for you and to do the initial analysis, to do the initial, on the ground assessment. And then from there, you get to do the fun stuff, the strategy, the manipulation of the design, and come up with something unique.
That's the ticket.
Yeah, 100% agree. Um, and so how about no code in general? Let's open it up to the larger question of like, where do you see the industry going, specifically for operators? But if you want to speak more broadly to the industry, I'd love to hear any reflections you might have on the industry.
Look, the thing that gets me the most excited even on the AI front is that I think AI is going to push no code to deliver on the promise that it really never has quite yet, which is like really making this stuff so accessible and so scalable, and like that gets me really jazzed. The future of it, man, is like I think that just like everybody knows how to use a basic of a spreadsheet, right? I think everyone's going to learn some of these basic things with no code to a certain degree on some level. And I think that every department is going to continue to just keep spiking out and having their own specialists to build systems that department cares about. And I think we're going to move away from a world where it's just like everybody's on one huge enterprise system, and more so like each department has their own SaaS or system that they're using or have built themselves that gives them the data and things that they need while they're sharing back the data with the rest of the company that they need. It's this kind of exists in the data world under this idea of like a data mesh, but I think that that's the future. And because I think that's the future, I think we're going to see dedicated operations roles and that are no code, and more agencies and more consultants, all the stuff. But the big reason I tell people to get into no code, and I guess I'll end it with this on this front, like, and why where I see the industry going, and also like the reason I tell people that it's so exciting to get into and why they should get into it is not because I think the end goal is just them doing no code all the time, right? I think if you're a non-technical person, you never learned how to code, you're at a job, you're providing value in a certain way, you've been asked to build a system, or you want to build a system to make things easier. You as the person at that job have the most context that anyone will ever have because you've been on the front lines of the business. You're in CX, you're talking to the customers, you're the sales manager, talking to the sales people, you're in the finance team, you're looking at all the data, right? Like you are hands-on with the actual problems better than any dev would ever be. And so to empower you with no code, in my mind, opens up so many possibilities. Possibility one, you develop a system for your team and you get a promotion or you get a new role in, ops, right? that's awesome. Thing number two, you learn so much that you start getting into low code because you're like, oh, wow, I feel way more comfortable with this. And maybe that even goes eventually to code and you start learning how to code because, like that's appealing to you. Great, right? Or maybe you're like, love this stuff so much. I could see myself starting my own company based on this, or I see myself doing consultant or agency work doing this for fractional, RevOps work for multiple companies. So I just think it opens up the door to so many things so much faster than learning how to code is. And like, that is the most exciting thing for me. It's not just like sticking and staying in no code. So yeah, it's an accelerator.
Yeah, no, I love that take. They There have been a lot of folks I've come across where they've they've started with no code and ended up moving into traditional code for certain projects
Happens all the time.
because now they have a framework for the concepts that you need
Yep.
to understand. And so it becomes easier, it becomes a great way for them to boost their confidence and also get excited about what's possible.
It's
Yeah.
no surprise that some of our most popular events and webinars that we've done are around like APIs, webhooks, and like database management. It's because like once you get a taste of stuff, you're like, you realize you need to learn fundamental concepts of code, even if you don't know how to code, when you're using no code to start scaling it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I know all this stuff. Like, oh, I gotta cheat map into learning kind of the fundamentals of code. Well, this is cool. Maybe I should
Yeah.
learn how to code. Great.
Although I'll push back on that assessment a little bit because if you told me you were running something on APIs, I would definitely show up because the API documentation that most people maintain is terrible.
Well, check it out, my
Any
friend.
help would be wonderful.
This is one of our most popular courses that we launched.
Yeah.
APIs and webhooks for no coders.
Mm.
It's a full course on all things APIs,
Yeah.
webhooks, everything, all from a
Awesome.
no low code perspective. So it
Very
expects
cool.
you know nothing about code or APIs
Yeah.
as you start.
My first experience with APIs was also with weather. I built a little weather app. Nice.
I remember one of my first experiences with APIs was being at your office when you were at Bubble and like messing around with some stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like building my first Bubble app.
Yeah, that's right.
Crazy.
You came through for one of our build nights.
Yep.
Yeah. That was
Crazy.
yeah, back before this was all before the pandemic when people got together all the time. Just cause.
Yeah.
All right, Phil, we've covered a lot. We've gone deep into the product a little bit. It seems like we've got a good look at it. We've talked about the future of no code. Is there anything in particular that you feel like we should have covered but we haven't covered?
No, I just really appreciate you making the time. And like, if any of you have, questions or whatever, feel free to reach out to me directly, like on LinkedIn and Twitter and all of that stuff. I saw some comments in the chat from Chanel, I think. I did see that email from Miriam about potentially speaking it on all of your agency's ops work at the conference. Stay tuned. If you haven't already, definitely make sure you submit a formal speaker application on the site. But we're still nailing down some details, so we haven't let any of the we haven't selected speakers yet, so plenty of time. And someone else said a little bit more about brand communication tools like Better Mode. Yeah, we co-hosted something with Better Mode actually recently in England that Claudia did, and Better Mode is super cool if you haven't heard of it. Like both like a way to talk with your users and have forums, right? But also like have a real great community feel to it as well. We have all of our community in Discord right now. They tend to really love it. We're always looking at all of the kind of things out there. But yeah, Better Mode is I remember back when it was tribe.so. So I've been following them for a long time.
Anyone else have any other questions? You can raise your hand. We'll unmute or put it in the chat and I can read it for you if you like, or send it straight to Phil.
Hey, Phil, I got a quick one. I don't think we've met in Zoom or in person yet.
Hey man, good to see
Hey,
you.
yeah. Our last meetup was all about um, citizen development. So people
Mhm.
kind of working on no code tools, so to speak, for large enterprises, like super
Yep.
large, like Shell, you know, uh, Pepsi, what have you. Um, any thoughts on the citizen development movement, which is kind of having its moment right now?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it, man. I just one we even hosted some courses that are all about citizen development in the academy, right? Which is, let me take a look. It's actually this one, the no code application business. This is all about citizen development, this one. Um, two, I love what companies like Shell and all of them are doing, right? Uh, it like there's so many materials on this stuff now, courses, books, etc. Shell's one of those rare exceptions of a company where they actually have a real citizen development program where like, you go and you learn the tools and like you certification and all the stuff. Like I'd love to see more and more and more of that over time. I do think that the textbook reality of citizen development versus like how it actually plays out at companies is like very radically different. I think the textbook is like you start a development program, you have a center of excellence, you have a certification program, and like that does happen. And when that happens, it's phenomenally empowering, and I'm a big fan of it. The reality is, what usually happens is like somebody at the company has some problem that a dev just didn't want to deal with, so they try to fix it on their own, and then they learn more and more about those tools, and then all of a sudden they've built a system that everybody else relies on, and congratulations, you're now kind of a citizen developer. Like that's usually how it ends up happening, but I love when companies more formally approach it, and I would love to see more of it.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. I think Chanel wants to ask a question. Or you're
Cool.
unmuted.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. So, hey, Phil. So I run an agency and we mostly build internal tooling. We do some MVP and landing page work. And what I find when it comes to like marketing case studies and work that I've done is that it's so easy to market like a website or MVP because the UI is accessible to like the audience.
Yep.
Whereas explaining internal tooling and like, how we created these loops and all the sexy things that can't be seen is kind
Yep.
of hard to explain and market to say, look, this is what we achieved. Do you have any tips on how to like share what, all the internal stuff that's built?
Totally. That is a great question. So yeah, it's not like you can like take your client's Airtable base and be like, can I just like expose this to the public? uh, so a couple of things there. One thing is really cool. Like folks love getting hands-on with stuff, right? And so one thing I think is really cool to be like, look, we took, and be very visual with it. Like this is an example of a spreadsheet, right? With like, and like maybe have some notes on that spreadsheet and like how it works and all the rules around it and all the documentation around it, right? And say, we turned it into this beautiful clickable portal. And like, whether you use like, we use a tool called like Story Lane to show some of this stuff, which is really cool. Bring it up here. It's like where you can do these interactive demos. Like you can walk through some, a story like that where it's like, this was what it did look like. This is all the problems that it would run into. And now we turned into this beautiful clickable thing that's like super easy to use. And like show them the difference between like what a spreadsheet looks like versus a software implementation. And give them the ability to click around in it a bit. I think that's huge. I also think that simply showing a process map of a before and after is also hugely beneficial. People are very visual in that way. And like if you can show someone like, this is the crazy convoluted process that this used to look like. And now this is how simple and beautiful it is with some screenshots of what the user experience used to look like versus it looks like now. Really, really good for helping people imagining like, oh wow, I wish my spreadsheets or processes look like that. Those are the two biggest things. I was also talking earlier today with I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but Ready Stack. Have you heard of this company before?
Haven't.
So, like, They basically do like they give you a way to like show a full process that you can then like share with other people in like a really cool way. It's also a really good way for like internal tool developers to like kind of monetize some of their knowledge and like share it. But like this is another cool format to like share processes as well.
Is this
That
basically
like
like
newer tools.
recipes?
Yeah, you create recipes exactly between like, I have a recipe that's like 3 that, 2 Airtable bases, and like, some like, and they also have a way to store data as well with like a tutorial of how to use this thing and, template this or use, recreate this on your own tool pack. Really cool.
Thank you.
But Sean, does that answer the question?
Does, thanks.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Anything visual where folks can get hands on, even if it's like a dummy version of it, huge. And I don't know. So have you heard of 9X before? They're a consultancy as well.
Who is it run by?
Pete and Alex and Jan.
It doesn't sound
They're
familiar.
based in Berlin. Like we do a lot of partnership work with these guys. They're another agency that does a lot of internal operations work. If you look at the way that they do some of their case studies as well, right? Like they're just really good at this visual stuff. Like I'd say that when it comes to internal tooling or operations agencies, the way these guys market themselves is like the gold standard in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Super slick, man. Thank you for sharing a ton of resources.
Yeah. Happy to do it.
Right. Great. Any other questions for Phil? Anyone else have anything they want to ask? Or you can, like I said, raise your hand I'll unmute you, or just drop it in the chat and I can read it out for you. No? All right. Well, I'm going to open the floor up to not just questions for Phil, but questions for anyone here, or anything they want to discuss, or anything they want to share. We at the end of every meetup, we like to chat a little bit as a group. If anyone has anything in particular they're working on, or they're struggling with, or they just want to kind of pitch an idea, feel free to raise your hand. We'll unmute you and we can dig in a little bit. And it looks like the only one who hasn't spoken is Kara. So Kara, you let us know if you want to jump in here. Otherwise, we'll close out the event. All right. All right. Well, Phil, let me thank you again. It's always a pleasure. It's also nice to see you in a professional setting.
Dude, so good to be here. I love this. Thanks all for the amazing questions and, kind of hearing me go on and on about stuff. But, if you ever have questions about whether, anything it is related to no code, always feel free to reach out to me. Always give me a jam. Sorry for having no voice. I've been with Operator just back to back to back to back demo calls over the past 2 weeks. So it's been a little bit intense. But yeah, any questions, feel free to reach out. Want to get on Operator, let me know. But yeah, this was awesome. Eric, thanks for hosting. Hal, thanks for hosting.
And thank you, Daniel, for showing us your project as well. Great stuff.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And just the closing thoughts. Let me go.
I know that guy.
Yeah. Closing thoughts. We've got our IRL meetup next month. I'll post it on the post it on the meetup, and I'll send everyone a message about it. We're partnering with Glide. We're going to be they want to commemorate their experts program. It's been around for a year now. They also want to chat about their relationship with Make. So we're going to get into that. We're partnering with the local Slack group as well, which is cool because I've recently made friends with the local Slack community organizer here in New York, and yeah, we're going to be at this new co-working space called Fabric. So details to come. We'll see each other in person, and yeah, thanks everyone for showing up. Appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Daniel.
Bye.